The federal government is aiming to support working parents with universal childcare, a $10 a day model that would make care affordable for more parents. We're a long way from the goal of 250,000 new spaces for kids. For now, wait lists is what a lot of parents are getting. But is it the best model to support a working parent anyway, especially those that have shift work or multiple jobs? Morna Ballantyne is Executive Director of Childcare Now. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, Morna, I wanted to start with kind of a progress report on how you think we're doing. The promise was affordable care for parents that want it. We do have a long way to go to get to the spaces. How do you think we're doing?
Well, we're doing really well on the affordability front. We have 6 and soon to be 7 provinces and territories that have reduced the parent fees for all age groups down to $10 a day. It's a huge gift to parents who have access to licensed childcare. But as you were saying, and the big problem we have is that there are not enough licensed childcare spaces for all those who need and want them. And of course, lowering the fees has increased demand. And that's one of the reasons we're seeing long wait lists.
And what do you see as the biggest roadblocks to filling those spaces? Is it simply the labor required, the number of early childhood experts to work in the field? Is it the businesses willing to open? Where do we see the big stopgaps?
It's both those things. Creating the 250,000 spaces that were promised by the federal government by 25-26 requires a huge increase in the labor force, the early learning and childcare labor force. We're not seeing that increase. And of course, the 250,000 spaces that are promised still won't meet the demand. The TD Economics report that came out earlier this year suggested that, in fact, we would need 315,000 more spaces than that. And that's going to require up to 100,000 trained early childhood educators. And we're just not able, first of all, to retain existing qualified early childhood educators because the wages and working conditions are so difficult and so poor. And if you can't retain, it's also extremely difficult to attract people to study and train for jobs in the sector that are so low paid.
And so let's talk about that, the quality here. As you say, affordability, we've done it. We still need to get the numbers where we need them. But then what kind of care is being delivered? And a lot of that, I imagine, will come down to, can you pay the people good wages in order to attract the quality and really not to have a rotating staff? You want people that stick around. What are the prospects of that? Can we, because this has been a space, if we look at the data, that's always been low paid, which is amazing when you consider the work that's being done.
Yeah, like most caring work that is predominantly done by women, professionals, and it's low paid for that reason and many others. It's work that's not being valued historically. Now, we are seeing some improvement in some jurisdictions. We've been advocating fiercely for proper wage grids to be put in place so that staff are being paid commensurate with their qualifications and with the duties required. And we have seen some provincial wage grids being put into place. Unfortunately, the start rates in those wage grids and the end rate are just too low. So we're continuing to advocate for higher wages. And it's not just about wages, though. We also need to advocate for pensions. We want to see much better benefits, health benefit plans for the sector. You know, they have to be comparable to other sectors, certainly public sector, to be able to attract people into the field.
Morna, so good to have you for this. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Morna Ballantyne is Executive Director of Childcare Now. Time for the takeaway and the benefit of benefits. Recent labor negotiations between U.S. auto companies and their biggest union reintroduced a topic that was long ago put to rest. Should companies not only pay employees a current wage for their current work, but also extend support into retirement, and in the case of big auto, do it with pensions that are guaranteed? The norm in recent years has been for companies that do pay a pension, and they are a shrinking number, to do so by way of defined contribution pensions. In this formula, the firm puts up a set amount up front. The employee takes the risk of what happens to it over time. By contrast, older pensions were defined benefit, meaning the employee was guaranteed a certain amount throughout retirement. It was up to the firm to figure out how to ensure the money would be there. That may sound like an accounting problem, and it is in part just that. But for employees, the real shift in thinking has been how they and their employer think about their relationship long term, or if they think long term at all. Gone are the days when people join a firm out of school and work there until retirement. Most of us change employers several times over the course of our work lives. And maybe it's no surprise that a lack of commitment winds up working both ways. But the real reason companies made this switch was simple math. With more retirees than workers, they couldn't fund pensions out of current employee contributions. So they needed to risk growing the pension in the stock market. And they much preferred that the risk of those market returns would be borne by the pensioners, not the company. But while demographics are still a factor, corporate profit has never been higher. And the truth is, an aging population will need more support. My takeaway? We let companies off the hook on benefits that stand the test of time. Maybe it's time to revisit a longer-term commitment to workers. That's Taking Stock for this week. I'm Amanda Lang. Thanks for being with us.